It's 6 o'clock on May 1st, 2023, and I will call this meeting of the Chelmsford Select Board to order. Would you please stand and join me for the pledge? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first up, confirmation of town manager's appointment of Colin Spence as police chief.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Select Board. I'm pleased and excited to present to you this evening candidacy of Colin Spence to succeed Chief Spinney as the head of the police department. We're all familiar with Colin, obviously long-term veteran of 30 years in the department, starting off way back when as an auxiliary police officer, through the responsibilities of dispatcher, and then obviously getting to be a sworn officer on the force, and through detective, sergeant, lieutenant, and most recently as deputy chief. I've also provided you with information regarding his formal educational training in terms of his bachelor's degree in criminal justice, master's degree in criminal justice management, and his Juris Doctorate degree, and admitted to the bar in Massachusetts. But most importantly, when Chief Spinney announced his retirement several weeks ago, we made the decision to look in-house for the candidacy for a police chief, and we had three very well-qualified applicants, each of whom could perform the responsibilities. In my interviews with the individuals, and then as well as in this room a week ago, there was a professional assessment center of the candidates, and clearly who rose above to the top was Colin Spence. He scored top at the assessment center. He clearly demonstrates the attributes that a community such as Chelmsford would want in a police chief. He's professional, he's prepared, he's pragmatic, and brings a passion to the position. So all the P words I guess we cover on it. But clearly he has a vision and exercise leadership in the responsibilities of the department. And I guess in summary, as I wrote in my memo to you, I guess I saw what Chief Spinney saw when he made the choice recently to fill the deputy position. Colin is the best candidate and can successfully serve the community and advance us in the areas of community policing, accountability, and integrity. So without any further prologue, I'll introduce Colin Spence as our candidate for police chief, and I respectfully request your confirmation. So please come to the podium. I don't know if there's anything you want to add, Colin, that I left out.
About a half hour? I'll keep it short. I know. Good evening. I'm humbled and enthusiastic to be in front of you tonight as in consideration as the next police chief. To the command staff and all the members of the Chelmsford Police Department, I have no higher honor than to serve as your next police chief. I'm proud to lead such an excellent group of dedicated officers. First and foremost, I'd like to thank my mother, who most of you probably already know, Jan Spence, for always being there to support me through life's journey, and your endless patience, Mom. I really, really appreciate it. My mother's constant encouragement to excel both in my professional and my educational achievements has enabled me to be here before you today. Thank you, Mom. I also want to thank Chief Spinney for his guidance throughout my career. Chief Spinney's retirement is a huge loss for the department and the town, and I have huge shoes to fill. Chief Spinney, through his leadership, has put the department on a path for success. His support for this town and his employees is unparalleled. Thank you, Chief, and I wish you well in your retirement. I would also like to thank Town Manager Paul Cohen and the Select Board for your confidence in me becoming your next police chief. I look forward to working with all of you. I've met everybody, and I really look forward to working with you. I'd like to thank all the employees in the town for their support over the years. This town is a great team of employees who always work together to make this town a better place to work and live. I would like to thank all those that supported me throughout the process and throughout my career. Words of encouragement from my family, the community, and my coworkers have allowed me to be successful. I would also like to thank each member of the Chelmsford Police Department for the job that they do each and every day. The care and empathy that our officers display each day in the community is unmatched. Our employees at the Chelmsford Police Department are our greatest asset. I've worked with many police departments over the years, and I truly feel the Chelmsford Police Department is a cut above the rest, and that it's a testament to what each and every one of our employees at the police department does. Over the past few years, I put much thought about the vision and the direction of the Chelmsford Police Department. My vision is to make the Chelmsford Police Department the premier law enforcement agency in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. My vision, as your chief, is to develop a principled, effective, and transparent police department with the highest level of professionalism. We will make integrity, accountability, and transparency the hallmark of the Chelmsford Police Department. In order to move our organization into the future, we will continue to embrace a community policing and a community engagement philosophy. I'll be building upon the strong foundation that Chief Spinney has established. We need to recognize and acknowledge how the community wants to be policed through community input. My vision will always be inclusive of the community input. We will continue to address the various traffic and safety issues throughout the town through community collaboration and enforcement. As a department, we will continue to improve on our responses to the mental health crisis, opioid crisis, and the homelessness issues presented in town. We will make employee recruitment, retention, and diversity a priority in the police department. And I will also be making officer wellness and safety and officer training and education a priority. This is clearly a challenging time in law enforcement, but we are ready to embrace it. As a department, we are very appreciative of the support town officials and the community as a whole give to the police department. Leading this department is a task I do not take lightly. Leading a police department that I love in a community I've spent decades serving. I'm extremely thankful to be considered and for the opportunity to serve as your next police chief. I will not let you down. I am grateful for this opportunity. I look forward to continue serving the community of Chelmsford. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion, comments?
Congratulations.
Take a motion to confirm.
I'll make a motion that we confirm the appointment of, the town manager's appointment of Deputy Police Chief Colin Spence as the new police chief effective June 1st, 2023.
A second?
I'll second the motion.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Unanimous. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good luck, Colin.
Okay, next up, public service announcements.
Okay, kind of in keeping with the police department theme, the Chelmsford Police Department will commemorate Peace Officers Memorial Day with the ceremony at the gravesite of Donald Adams on Monday, May 15th at 11 a.m. at Forefathers Ceremony. This is a very brief ceremony. It's very moving. If you can come by and see it, it's definitely worthwhile. May 15th, 11 a.m. at Forefathers Cemetery. Next is a joint meeting between the Select Board and the Cemetery Commission to fill a vacancy on the Cemetery Commission. In accordance with the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 11, the Select Board and the Cemetery Commission will hold a joint meeting on Monday, May 15, 2023, at 6 p.m. in this room 204 of the Chelmsford Town offices to fill a vacancy on the Cemetery Commission. The person so appointed, who shall be a registered voter of the town, shall perform the duties of a cemetery commissioner until April 2nd, 2024 annual town election. Anyone who's interested in being appointed to fill this vacancy should send a written letter of interest or a committee application to the Select Board by May 10th or appear at the May 15th joint meeting. Next is suicide prevention session sponsored by the Health Department. The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention Group will be presenting a program titled Talk Saves Lives. This program is co-sponsored by the Chelmsford Health Department and the Chelmsford Public Library. In about an hour, participants will learn the common risk factors for suicide, how to spot the warning signs in others, and how to keep ourselves, our loved ones, and those in our community safe. The presentation is entitled Talk Saves Lives, A Brief Introduction to Suicide Prevention, and will be held at the Chelmsford Public Library on Tuesday, May 9th from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. To ensure that adequate resources and seating are available, please RSVP to Taryn Angel, the Public Health and Wellness Coordinator, by calling 978-250-5241 or email tangel@chelmsfordma.gov. The Health Department is also continuing their overdose sessions. Do you know how to recognize an opioid overdose? Would you feel comfortable administering Narcan to someone who may be overdosing? The Chelmsford Health Department is continuing to host free Narcan trainings for anyone who would like to learn more about opioid overdoses and how to save a life using Narcan. So far, over 100 community members have been trained, so let's keep this number growing. Attendees are also able to take home a rescue kit if they ever think they might need it. Even if you think you might not need it, you can still take one home. The trainings are about 20 minutes and are held at Chelmsford Town Hall, room LL06. The May sessions will be held on Thursday, May 11th at 2 p.m. and Tuesday, May 23rd at 6 p.m. Visit the Health Department page on the town website to register, or you can call the Health Department for assistance. The Health Department is also doing a walking group. The weather's warming up again, and it's time for the Chelmsford Health Department walking group to begin again. The first walk is going to take place on May 9th. The walking group takes place every second and fourth Tuesday of the month from 9 to 9:30 a.m., May through September. They meet at the Little League ball fields on 110 at the intersection of Fletcher Street and Chelmsford Street, and walk about a half mile down the rail trail towards Lowell and back. Wear comfortable and weather-appropriate clothes and shoes, and bring a water bottle. A new health topic is discussed each time they meet, and it's a great way to get in your 30 minutes of exercise, to socialize, and to learn. And note, if the weather is inclement, they will not meet. If you have any questions or concerns, again, contact Darcy at the Chelmsford Health Department, 978-250-5241.
Thank you, Pat. Next up is public input. If you do have input, if you could please just give us your name and your address.
Good evening, John Abbott, 384 North Road. Tonight I'd like to speak about the special town meeting and specifically the article about Ledge Road. I'm not a very good public speaker, so please bear with me. To quote Jeff Miller the other night, I have no skin in the game. So, in the 1950s, the state constructed Route 3. At that time, they cut off the access to the two quarry operations in Westford, now known as LeMageries and Guilmettes. They used to come in off of what is called Makepeace Road in Westford, which is the extension of Dunstable Road. They created the underpass, the state created the underpass, so that those quarry operations could continue. LeMageries and Guilmettes at the time was running a cement business at the top of Ledge Road, and they acquired the quarry. LeMageries and Guilmettes made an agreement to create a right-of-way, which went under that underpass, which is now used today. The residents who wanted to speak the other night at town meeting, I think were cut off. They were getting up to queue, and the town meeting rep moved the question, and the town moderator made it go through, and they weren't allowed to speak. Chelmsford Gray Granite, who a lot of you probably know, is all over the country, all over the state, all over this town. The 911 memorial, all Chelmsford Gray, all donated from LeMagerie. Conservation Commission signs, Chelmsford Gray Granite. Roberts Field benches being installed today, Chelmsford Gray Granite, all come from the quarry. Aggregate that the town purchases for their drainage and their road projects come from the quarries. the town floral gardens where the old fire station stood. Those plaques and whatever are Chelmsford gray granite, and many, many other projects in town. Mr. Elliott, I sent an email as well as to you people stating that there's 5 businesses at the end of Ledge Road that will be greatly affected by this as well. He stated that only 1 vehicle was registered up there. Well, they may not be registered that address, but there's 5 businesses that use that address for storage, parking, repairs, and whatnot. There's a 6th business in there that's it's a small engine repair business, so he won't be affected unless Gilmet decides to sell the property off and probably put 500 or 1,000 condos in there, because they won't be able to use the property. I would like to see the town of Chelmsford, this board, reach out to Westford, the state, and to Newport Materials, and find a solution to the trucking problem. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Not seeing any other input? Is there any other discussion?
Can we ask
We
some
don't discuss
questions?
it.
What's that?
No.
Okay. With no other input, we'll move on to committee vacancies.
Okay, as of today, we have the following committees that have vacancies. As mentioned earlier, the Cemetery Commission has 1 unexpired term that will be filled at our next meeting. The Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee has one opening. The Commission on Disabilities has 1 opening. The Community Action Program Committee has 4 openings. The Council on Aging Board has 1 opening. Holiday Decorating Committee has 1 opening. The Parade Committee welcomes all applicants. The Permanent Building Committee has 1 opening, and the Recycling Committee has 1 opening. If you're interested in any of these opportunities to serve on a committee, you can fill out an online application or come to the town manager's office for more information.
Okay, next up, licenses. Common victular license. Is there somebody here?
Yeah, there's some
Great.
folks here from Simply Come Here on Summer Street.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sam Bat Ian Lee. You can call me Sam. Well, back in December last year,
Could you just give us your address too, please?
I'm located on 7 Summer Street, Unit 30.
Okay.
We try to open the Simply Come Here restaurant. As right now, we have 1 in Lowell, and I like to get permission from all of you to allow me to open. We target date on this month of the 19th, but we don't know what's going on yet. After tonight, if you allow me to be in Chelmsford, I'll be happy, to be here. If any question for me
Okay.
to?
Any questions?
What attracted you to Chelmsford?
Excuse me?
What attracted you to Chelmsford?
Oh, I came to this country and City of Lowell, that's when I'm land back in '85, and I grew up there. And finally, back in 2008, we opened 1 in Lincoln Street. And I always look into Chelmsford, but I don't think I afforded it back then. And back in December, I have a friend that have that restaurant, used to be Sakura, Japanese restaurant.
Yeah.
So he said he want to stop and retire, and he asked me if I can take over. And this is how it started, and it's opportunity. And I think I get a good deal, and besides that, I just like to present my cooking. Actually, I'm a chef at my other restaurant, and I can't wait to be here also.
Okay. Any more questions, comments? Okay, motion to approve?
I'll make a motion that we approve the common victuals license to Simply Comer Noodle House to be exercised at 7 Summer Street, Unit 30, as presented.
I'll second.
Thank
All
you.
those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Hope to see you guys there.
Great, thank you.
Okay, reports and presentations.
Yeah, we have a few reports this evening. The first one is the monthly Traffic Safety Committee report. Who's, I don't know, we got Christine, Colin, I got Lieutenant. It's rather brief this month, but there is, we did want the police presence to explain about the speed study, so go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Lieutenant Jason Poor, filling in for soon-to-be Chief Spence. The monthly traffic committee update. We have traffic enforcement and speed monitoring in several areas of town. Sprague Ave and Gorham Street, traffic concern, cutting back the vegetation, increasing the cautionary signage. That came to our attention through the bus company. The bus driver was having difficulty turning from Sprague Ave onto Gorham Street, and although it's a state road, the DPW did step up and assist with the cutting back of the brush, so we thank them. Fire lanes at Brick House have been painted and the signage has been placed. There's been very few issues since that's happened. Seems to be clear every time I go by. And the temporary speed bumps installed on Ledge Road. Pending actions, we are working with the consultants for a schematic design of the crosswalks at Mill Road and Raymond Road across to the Murphy Fields. The DPW received the dynamic school zone traffic calming signage for the grant at the South Row School on Boston Road. And we conducted a study of the traffic on Sylvan Ave, which is on the next slide. We studied Sylvan Ave after a resident lodged a complaint about the speed back in the winter. We put the devices out there starting on March 24th and did 4 weeks, 2 weeks in each direction, and found the average speed to be roughly 20.8 miles per hour. There is a significant volume there because it's high cut through. I don't see a very high rate of speed, and we'll just be continuing to monitor that.
So I just have a question. In this table, so does this say you had 16 to 20, is this 16 to 20 what, miles an hour?
Correct.
Okay.
So on the
And so
on
this
the
is the
first
number
table-
of vehicles each date that were traveling at that speed?
Correct, in one direction. So on the first chart from March 24th to April 7th, there was one vehicle going over 35 miles per hour out of 2,377. The speed limit is 30. And similar results on the second 2 weeks in the opposite direction.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay.
Next, we have Lisa Maroney, our Business Development Director, and she did the follow-up from the discussion at your previous meeting regarding the nip bottles and the liquor stores, and took a few steps over the last few months, and is here sort of to bring it all, tie it all together.
Good evening. In your package should be a summary of the effort taken to date with the timeline of events. As you can see, February 27th is when the issue came forward. We had an internal meeting on March 6th, and that included the Chelmsford Police Department, Health Department, myself. And from that discussion, we decided to create a hybrid meeting to invite the package store owners in conversation with town representatives. That meeting happened on March 27th. And from the summary, you can see that of the 7 package stores, there were 5 representatives that participated. 5 liquor stores that participated, 7 people in total, and including along with the town staff. So from that was conversation together and trying to address these issues. There was conversation about the package stores have placed prominent signage inside their retail establishments to encourage proper and respectful handling of litter, using trash receptacles outside of the package store itself. They have been encouraging customers at the point of sale to address the littering issue and the littering complaint. So they're having specific conversations as the products are purchased with these customers. And also the property owners and operators are making a stronger effort to pick up trash and be mindful of their immediate surrounding and their business property. Just wanted to summarize that with you, and we also shared with them the townwide cleanup day and that effort as well, and those are the actions taken to date.
Any thoughts on how we'll determine whether or not this has been effective, this campaign, and kind of discussions with the group when you talk to them?
As you know, there are other communities dealing with the same issue. We're not alone on this. The package stores are well aware of what's happening. They're very mindful of it. They're following, they're monitoring. They're connected with the Massachusetts Package Store Association, and they're all trying to collaborate and find ways on how to address that. How to measure progress is going to take a little more time to figure that out, but bringing the issue forward and having the conversations are step one, and should make a bit of a difference, because none of them want to see any type of negative effects either to the environment, their business process, or anything like that. So they're doing all that they know and are aware of that they can do on their behalf. And the other issue is just human habits and trying to be mindful of littering in any way, especially this topic of the nip bottles.
Any other?
Well, just to follow up on that, so I really like and appreciate what the package store owners are doing to try to heighten awareness with their consumers and customers. We know where some of the high litter areas have been, Paul. Is there any thought about, like, just periodically monitoring that to see if there is any reduction, or to catch some, if it still looks like it's the same or increasing, to see if because there's nothing the store owners can do about the property that they don't own.
Right, and that was clear when we were in the meeting room and having the discussions. It wasn't found to be a universal problem across the liquor stores across the community. And I think the thing that was a little bit, I don't know what the right word, a little bit surprising, I guess, for lack of a better word, was the license holders really didn't feel a responsibility to clean up beyond the extent of their property line.
That's true.
And that was sort of a little bit disappointing. I would have thought that if I was sort of getting pushback from the neighborhood or in the community, that you would have sort of said, we'll sort of keep things tidy, in the area. And that wasn't there. So I think we can monitor it, but their feeling was it was the irresponsible behavior of the consumer, and I guess if that's being the case, then the signage and the pleading, I'm not sure it's quite. I'm not optimistic that's going to change, and that's how we'll keep an eye on it.
They're not
Right.
going to monitor the places
Right.
where the heavy litter.
So they've got two options in the
taking
future if
place.
that happens. One is the town can institute a ban, or it'll be further momentum for a statewide ban. And so that sort of was what they were left with. And
Well, I mean,
yeah.
I wasn't going to the ban part yet. I
No,
was
but I
just
think that's-
asking,
I
is
think
there
that's-
any
that's what's at
monitoring
risk.
that
we will.
the police or anybody will be doing?
Yeah, we will. We'll keep an eye on the neighbor, and I'm sure we'll also hear from the people who walk the neighborhoods as well. But
But yeah, that should be an incentive.
That
for
should
them
be an
to maybe
incentive.
Once a month, grab
Yeah.
a bag and go.
yeah, go out and
pick up around
make up
the-
around but it's. Yeah, I mean, I think that, I mean, that sort of was sort of when we sort of did our own internal follow-up, we were sort of puzzled that there wasn't more motivation to say, hey, look, we're going to lose, because for some folks, that is a significant part of their business.
Right.
But yeah, I guess the answer to your question succinctly is, yeah, we will keep an eye on the areas, but.
I understand there's a limited amount that your staff can do
Right.
too, unless it's
Exactly.
public land.
Exactly.
Anything else? Hey, thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Lisa.
you.
And then our final presentation this evening is from Public Works Director Christine Clancy with the monthly American Rescue Plan Act project report. Good evening, Christine.
Good evening. Here's the monthly ARPA update. And we'll, I guess, go over the spreadsheet in a minute, but just to go over some of the numbers. So of the $7.9 million of allocated ARPA funds, $5.4 million, or 69% of the total allocated amount, has been procured to date. Of the 5.4, 70% of that has been spent. And we are tracking a project overrun of our current projects of just over $850,000. So the total unallocated ARPA funds is $2.68 million, of which is 1.83, I guess, would be unallocated just because we are tracking that $850,000 overrun.
So it's gone up a little bit again.
Actually, it went down last month a little bit. I think it was
Last
900.
month it was like at 809.
I thought it
right?
was 9. I have to check. I thought it was like 950. I can double check that, but it slightly went down.
Yep.
I think largely because of that project, the Byam and Harrington HVAC project. One of the two biggest projects left to procure are the testing and balancing projects, where we don't anticipate that to have a significant overrun, and the senior HVAC system, center project, which that will be probably the last project procured under DPW, and that's anticipated to be procured in June. I can briefly go over the spreadsheet. So the spreadsheet here, as in previous months, we have the colors in blue are procured and complete. Green is procured, but we're completing the installation. It's the projects in yellow are partially procured, but primarily the projects in red, that's where we still are working on that procurement. So it's the the projects in this spreadsheet that are highlighted in red that we want to, we're focused on. So at the end, the spreadsheet should be primarily blue and green, because some projects will continue into the spring and fall for construction. Overall, in terms of updates, there aren't any significant updates to provide project-based. We're just in the middle of procurement and working on the design documents for many these projects that are in yellow or red. I know one was also the fire truck, and I spoke with the chief that is, I think we're almost ready to put that truck out, have it up in operation. We're just finishing some final procurement of some equipment. And like I said, the last largest project of these red will be the senior center HVAC construction project. And we are not projecting a significant overrun like we just experienced with it was the Harrington, I think, Byam HVAC. I don't know if there's any specific questions related to any of these projects.
Not specific, just, we still looking the end of June to probably have most of the red?
Yeah, so our goal is to have the red procured. I think as you get towards the bottom, I mean, some of these projects were anticipated to be used beyond June, where you get into like table of plenty, some of those, but the projects in red is really our focus. And even some of the DPW projects in yellow, I had updated this month partial procurement, because they're smaller scope jobs where we're just procuring different elements of the project. But yes, our goal is to have the red red procured, so those should be turning to, like I said, green or blue.
Okay. Any additional questions? Okay.
No,
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
Okay. Meeting schedule.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, now that town election and town meeting season is over, we sort of are able to reset and look ahead to the work of the upcoming year. We'll start with the meeting schedule, then you get into liaison assignments and so forth. But on the meeting schedule, it very, sort of follows the board's customary pattern of 2 meetings per month. So for this month, it'd be tonight, then we'd go to the, 2 weeks from tonight, the 15th. We run into Memorial Day after that, so then goes to June 5th. And then the 26th of June, and then we go around the 4th of July. So what you see is the pattern is Monday night meetings, obviously, this time of the year we're going around Memorial Day, 4th of July, and so we'd have 2 meetings in July, 2 meetings in August. The reason the meetings are back-to-back proposed in August is Virginia made me aware of her schedule of August, and I'm trying to schedule meetings where all of us are here. And then I have a commitment the last Monday in August. So that's why you have the 14th and the 21st of August. We then move around Labor Day and then meet in the 2 meetings in September. And then October brings us to Columbus Day and Fall Town Meeting. So there, again, you really have 2 regular meetings, the 2nd and the 23rd. The 16th is the town meeting, and if necessary at any town meeting, we could always have a meeting prior to that at the senior center, which we fortunately did not have to do this spring. last week. And then you then move into November when you do tax classification, and again, meet before Thanksgiving. You come back after Thanksgiving in December. And December does have a third meeting because that's the tri-board meeting customarily with the Select Board, School Committee, and Finance Committee to discuss what would be the FY25 operating and capital budgets. We then, again, avoid this year, Christmas and New Year's are on Monday holidays, so we would meet the Monday before Christmas, a week before, then come back the Monday after New Year's. And then in January, again, you've got an extra meeting at the end of January because the presentation of the FY25 operating and capital budgets and first draft of spring annual town meeting warrant. And then again, 2 meetings in February, 2 into March, and then you're back at the town election, and then reorg that Thursday, and then the regular meeting the following Monday. So that's sort of the proposed meeting schedule. I guess what I'd be interested in knowing is if there are any conflicts that the board may have at this time with those dates, and if so, I'm sure we can move to accommodate them. And again, we can always change this along the line, but this is sort of the proposed calendar that Christine notably does in our office for licenses and other matters that come before the board.
I just had just not conflicts, but so Monday, June 5th is the date that we have the state and federal legislators coming back, right?
Mm-hmm.
So could we put something on the May 15th agenda in terms of planning for that meeting so we know what we're going to talk about with them?
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
And then my only other observation, and I appreciate you working around my schedule, between Monday, July 24th and Monday, August 14th, that's 3 weeks.
Yep.
And I don't know if things are going to be quiet or busy, but certainly if you need to have another meeting in early August without me, I'm okay with that. Because I was noticing the 14th, you have the goals work session, and I guess this would be a question for the board. Usually we do a dedicated, the last couple of years anyway, we've done a dedicated meeting for that because it takes some fair amount of discussion. So I suppose if you think the August 14th agenda would be fairly light, we can try to do it all at once.
That's the plan, I think. That's what we were thinking. So if something changes, we can always make adjustments. But
Okay.
I think a 3-week break would be a good thing.
That's fine.
Well, as Paul said, I mean, it's just a proposed schedule. It can
Yeah.
change as
Yep.
needed. So.
Any further discussion on this? Okay,
Great, thank you.
thank you. Okay, liaison assignments. So I have some thoughts here I've jotted down, and we can just go down the list. And certainly the ones that we'll focus on are the ones that were vacated, but there's a few other adjustments. So is it okay if I just go down this? Is everybody comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So the Age-Friendly Implementation Committee, and that and the Council on Aging, those two have a lot of overlap. So what we discussed and thought we would do is have Virginia actually assigned to both of those because of that overlap. And we thought that would probably be a better situation for the boards and for Virginia as well. So if anybody has any issues with that, we'd like to go that way. And then coming down, the first one, Board of Appeals, that was one Ken had. And any discussions? Erin, are you okay taking over that?
I'm
or-
okay. Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be fine. That would be great.
So we'll put Erin on that one. Continuing down, and if anybody sees something they want to talk about, we can. The Cemetery Commission, that was also Ken. Is that something you can look at as well?
Sure. Yep.
Unless, again, if any of the other members have any comments, please jump in. Chelmsford Public Schools, the thought is to switch that from two liaisons to one. And the other thought was, Erin, we thought that with you having children in the school, that it might be a really good idea to have your input there. So we'll switch that. So Virginia and Mark will go away from that, and Erin will go on. Commission on Disabilities. Any thoughts on that? Okay, Erin, are you okay with that?
Sure.
Okay. Cultural Council. Anybody else have any thoughts?
I mean,
about
I
that?
wouldn't mind doing that one, if,
Okay.
unless, unless everyone wants to pick that one up.
Are we just going through the ones that are vacant? Since
Well,
Ken left
yeah, but
so
if there's
few times,
anything in
okay.
between, if anybody sees anything they'd like to discuss, I'm open, obviously. Cultural Council, okay, do you want, Pat?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
okay. You want to do cultural?
Who's taking it?
Pat? Cultural Council? Actually, we saw that, the Economic Development,
But
this
it's
is
no
an
longer-
older,
no longer
but that
exists.
no longer exists, so
That's gone.
that's not there. Historical Commission?
I guess it's a question, Aaron, do you,
Economic development.
It's no longer, oh, it might not be in that.
Oh, that's not on
I
mine.
may have an
Are you
earlier
looking at
list.
Skills?
Yeah, you do. That's
Yeah.
interesting. Oh.
It's been updated since.
I'm sorry, which one are you on?
Historical Commission.
Historical Commission?
Sure. So is there a historical commission and a historic district commission?
yes.
Yes.
Should those two be together also?
They don't-
Would
It
that-
doesn't,
really
it doesn't
overlap.
matter,
Yeah,
they're
it
not at
doesn't-
all related.
They have different goals and different.
Okay. Okay,
Okay.
sure.
Insurance Advisory?
That one hardly ever meets. I mean, I don't mind doing it. I think the last time it met, I was on it probably
Yeah.
at least 10, 12 years ago.
Is
Okay.
that for the town municipal insurance?
Yeah.
Okay, Pat, I get you down for that one.
That's interesting.
Tree Committee. I think, Aaron, you told me you'd like to do that. one.
Mark, you
I-
skipped permanent build.
I would
Oh,
love
no,
to.
never mind.
Nope, I have
I'm
that one.
sorry.
Love to,
Okay, Erin on Tree Committee.
on trees.
Okay, and now these are some of the voting member assignments, although, I went over one that I wanted to discuss. So on the legislative side, we thought about adding a liaison for the U.S. Rep Trahan's office, and thought maybe, Pat, if you wanted to do that?
Sure, be glad to.
Okay, so we're gonna add that
And the-
assignment, and Pat's gonna take that?
Are we going to distribute the other four amongst the rest of the four of us then, so that each one of us has a legislative assignment?
I think that was the original intent, yeah.
Right,
try to
so
do
George has Senator Barrett, Pat used to have our CRO.
Yes.
and I mean, I'd be happy sticking with Representative Elliott, because I'm in his district and I talk to him a lot anyway.
Yep,
And I'm in Representative Cataldo's, if that helps.
yeah, I have him, but, I mean, I
Okay.
can,
We could give Aaron Cataldo, and then you could take our CRO, because you're in his district.
yeah, that's fine. So I'll switch to Sierra, and Erin, you'll take over,
Oh, and you're in his
Cataldo.
district too? Oh, yes, that
Yes.
kind of makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
I guess.
Okay?
And then George has Senator Barrett.
Yep,
Just to-
that doesn't change. Community Preservation Committee. You have any thoughts about that, or?
For myself, my only thought is my Wednesday nights kind of pile up between the planning board and
Okay,
a work commitment I have on other Wednesday nights. This is a voting position.
Yeah, it's a voting
Yes.
position on CPC, and it usually meets, 4 months or so out of the year? I mean,
Oh, okay.
they won't meet in the
Yeah.
summer, they.
I mean, I could do,
That I could handle.
Yeah, I-
or
I
just-
could
I'm
do
happy
it if you
somebody
want to.
else
Yeah.
does it.
I mean, I can take that one.
You want to take that?
Yeah, I'll
Mark?
take that one. Okay. And Master Plan Implementation Committee. I don't know how much that's gonna meet now, but,
No, they
They're-
meet quarterly.
They're meeting,
still
they're
just-
meeting.
yeah,
They're meeting quarterly
they're meeting
regularly, yeah.
Quarterly, yeah.
okay. Is that something you wanna get
I can do
involved
that.
in? Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then,
Okay.
Aaron, I would just talk to whoever's running that, because from the last report we got, my understanding is they have a bunch of, they paired off a bunch of people within the committee to go work specific things, so you'll need to know what Ken's assignments were.
Okay.
And I think Christina has
And
his booklet, yeah.
the whole committee makeup may be changing too, since the
Right.
election, I have no idea, but.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, any other thoughts, questions? I don't think, we don't need to vote, correct?
No, the one you have to
We
do is
need-
NIMCOG, and
Yeah.
that's
The
next
next
on your
agenda
agenda.
item.
Yeah, right. Okay, so let me get that one. And then next agenda items to appoint select board rep for NIMCOG. Do we have any, I mean, currently, Pat, you're on that now. Do we have any other nominations or thoughts about that?
When do they meet?
Third Wednesday.
I can't take on another Wednesday thing.
Pat's had that for a long time.
Yeah, okay, why don't we just make a motion if we need one, or?
Okay, I mean, I'd rather somebody else make the motion.
Do you want to still do
All
it?
right, I'll make a motion
Absolutely
to,
do.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to appoint Pat to the NIMCOG board.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up, this is the Ledge Road.
Yeah, this is a town meeting follow-up item. What town meeting voted last Thursday was to authorize the select board to submit a home rule petition to the Massachusetts State Legislature regarding the commercial truck restrictions on Ledge Road, as shown on the screen, as voted by town meeting. So what has to formally happen if this is to be advanced is the select board would vote to submit it. I would then obtain a certified copy of the vote from the town clerk's office, and then we would provide that to our legislative delegation. As Representative Elliott explained at town meeting, that would then be filed as a home rule bill, which means it can get accepted by the legislature, and then we would await its assignment and then some hearing date. So that's so what the action this evening will be action by the select board to authorize that process.
Okay. Any discussion on this?
So I'll make a motion that we authorize the town manager to submit the home rule petition to the state legislature as presented.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. 5-0. Okay, next, for the purchase and sale of Wilson Lane.
Yeah, this is another town meeting follow-up item. This is the town meeting authorized the purchase from community preservation funds of the parcel off of Wilson Lane, known as 0 Wilson Lane, map 29, block 104, lot 16. The purchase sale agreement you have before you has been reviewed by council, by town council, and by council for the sellers. It's been signed by the sellers. And again, if the board authorizes and approves this evening with the signatures, we would then transfer it over to council to schedule a closing. In fact, I think there's already a draft deed that's been circulated as well. And the plan is to close this before the end of this fiscal year, basically within the next 2 months.
So this is only a portion of the premises that's described in this, in this particular book and page? Because
What did you say? A portion of what?
a portion of the premises, I thought, because it looks like it's the entire parcel.
It's the entire parcel, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So why does it call it a portion of the premises? The underlined section.
Oh, it's a portion, I think it goes back to the Registry of Deeds filing. This is a separate parcel as identified by the assessors. But there's been, I know there was a title examination on this as well, and I think there may be a question about a utility easement, but it's not significant. But no, that parcel will be conveyed at the proposed price of the $28,900, which is the assessed value. So no, we're acquiring the whole thing.
Any other questions? Take a motion?
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve and sign the purchase and sale agreement for the property on Wilson Lane as presented.
I'll second.
All those in favor? 5-0.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, discussion regarding survey results of town committees.
Do you want me to take this?
Yeah, I was going to say, this might be a good one. You did a lot of work on this particular topic and on this table.
So what I did, since the last meeting, probably don't have color in your packet. The table that was starting on page 3 is what was in the last packet. Excuse me. And I went through the different inputs, and over in the right-hand column, I said, okay, well, to cover all these, what would make sense? And then the bottom line is, if you go to pages 1 and 2, I consolidated all of that up front. So, for example, action item number 1 that I called onboarding, if you look at page 4, there's a section, there's an action item on the right called 4-1 that sort of covered all the inputs. And I think this is one where it was the most general, but it was really about boards and committees saying maybe there's something we could do to better orient members when they come on board. And so my thought was to, and I can just step through these and then we can go back, or we can go one at a time. But my thought here was we could assign 1 or 2 select board members to work with Paul to see what's currently established, because when you come on board to a committee, you do get something like from the clerk's office, right? And then is there just any general guidelines that we want to put together for people new to a board and committee, and then maybe there's a blank part where the board and committee could have the option to fill in any specifics that they want. So that was my thought in response to all of those items that fell under that question 4. And then just to kind of orient you to this table on page 1 and 2, if you look, for example, at item number 2 under liaisons, my thought on the action is there, and then where you see letters in this table, A, B, C, those are, I took the specific inputs from the survey and just brought them forward here for reference so you could see what we were responding to. The only one I didn't do that with was number 1, because there were so many of them. So this was, number 2 was a suggestion, for example, from the Council on Aging, saying it would be beneficial for the select board to more clearly define what the role of a liaison is. And so again, my thought was that we could assign 1 or 2 select board members to just come up with some guidelines considering sections 132 and 221 in our policy document. It could be just as much as referring them to that, unless there's something else that needs, right, but, people, I hate to say it, but I don't think people sit on the edge of their seat reading the select board policies.
No, I agree, and that's
So
where.
it may just be kind of pulling, some of these may be pulling existing information together so that it's more readily referenced. So I'm going to just stop talking for a moment. Do you want to hit these one at a time and assign people, or do you want me to go through the whole list?
I mean, I guess, having read this, it looks like the expectation is that this board would be very much responsible for all of these things, but I think as far as orientation, it's almost like each committee needs to have, once you get past the stuff that the town clerk gives you and you look at what the policy is, which they should be given.
Yep.
Every board and every member should be given that. Like an orientation for the tree committee is going to be vastly different than orientation for the council on aging.
I think that's what I'm not suggesting that the board members do everything. I'm suggesting that the board members, we asked for the survey, so I think we have to figure out how we respond to that. And so what I was suggesting is that we assign people to go look at these specific categories of things, and we either come back with a product or a service that's responsive to that, or we make a recommendation that say a committee take that on themselves. But I think we have my thought when I went through this was we asked for the input, we have an obligation to respond to it somehow other than say it's back in your court, right? And maybe help provide, help facilitate, getting some of these things, getting some of these responses on board. I think the general comments that were made about even onboarding, I think we should have 1 or 2 members look at that and say, okay, well, what's a common thread here? Or just based on our knowledge, what are they what do we know that maybe they don't know?
Or
right?
something simple
Right,
that
and
we
should
could,
something be
that we could suggest they
documented?
implement across all the
Yeah,
boards, so that it's not.
And the answer may
so
come back, if the answer
specific.
comes back, it's too hard, no, that's fine, but I think we should consciously take a look at it and make a decision one way or the other, a disposition. And then there were ones like the CPC made a comment in number 3 about better communications with the CPC and other boards and committees. So my thought here was, well, whoever we assign to be the CPC liaison, which I think is now Mark, would just go back to that committee or the person who made the comment and get some clarification. Was this specific to you? Or are you suggesting a broader thing is appropriate? And then just come back. I mean, I think this is going to be an iterative thing. And actually, number 4 is the only other one in here, I believe, where there's no liaison assigned right now. We don't have a liaison to the Board of Registrars. So, again, this is where I thought, well, we should just have a select board member and the town manager talk to the registrar's representative and make sure we understand this and see if there's a role here for us to play or not. But like the tree committee comments, that they have a liaison, the Council on Aging, DIEC, they all have liaisons. So my thought on those would be, again, the liaisons go and get a little bit more clarification verbally now that we have the written inputs, and come back to the board and see whether there's something that makes sense for us to do. The only other one that was left that I didn't make a connection with the liaison would be number 8, because I think this is the comment about, since the select board occasionally reading the land acknowledgement. So we approved it and supported it, and I think the DEIC has come back a couple times and said, you know, will you guys read it at some of your meetings? And my thought there was that really needs to be an agenda item that we talk about at a future meeting. I don't think that falls on the liaison, and we shouldn't do it tonight. So that one I gave to Mark and Paul to put on a future agenda.
Okay,
So-
so
so, I
many
mean-
of these really fall back to the liaisons to
Right.
kind of go back with their
And
committees to find out, you know, what they may want to have for recommendations or changes, et cetera.
they do. The only ones that don't are number 8, and we just talked about it. And then I think we should just talk about 1, 2, and 4, because those don't really fall back to a liaison.
Okay.
And maybe 1 and 2 are so similar, maybe it's the same select board member or members looking at that, to Pat's point, because some of it, understanding what a liaison role is probably,
The
no.
intent.
Right. Who wants to get on that as far as those 2 items together? Let's put those together.
Unless somebody else I'm happy to be one of the people on it.
Okay.
Unless there's 2 other people that want it, or I can just work with Paul on
I
what
can.
exists, or that, or.
There was one other thing that, you know, it's not mentioned here, and I think I had brought it up when we were talking about this several months ago, and it was, you know, a few years ago, once a year, the chairs used to all meet.
Right.
The chair of this board would invite the chairs of all these committees to come and meet here, and everybody would give an update on what their committee is doing. And I was talking to somebody over the weekend, and I had mentioned that, and he said he feels that would be such a good idea, because even if the tree committee doesn't have any idea what the Council on Aging is doing, it's still a good idea that they have some sense. You know, you give them a 30-second or a 1-minute platform to talk about what it is they do, and then maybe from that, there might be some other ideas, too, that generally across the board would be useful for everybody.
Well, it could improve collaboration between the other.
Yeah, I mean,
Also,
there's not
yeah.
going to be collaboration on a lot of them, but it's still
Yeah,
good
once
for
in a
everybody
while.
to know.
Awareness helps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Why don't we just add that into the 1 and 2 then, to see if that's something we want to consider? Because I know, like individually, I know like the recycling committee wants to do that on their own. They'd like to come in once, just to give an update to the
I think
select board.
what Pat's talking about
That's
is
different.
different.
Yeah, no, it's totally
For sure.
different. I know it is.
Okay.
So why don't we put that, because it's kind of a general
I mean, is the question right now whether or not we want to do that?
I mean, maybe the two folks that might look at those first two items can consider it,
Okay.
because it's kind of general and across the board. Do you want to do that?
Sure.
Do you want to look at that with Virginia? Okay. And Pat will look at those first two. And then number 4, and this is coming back more to the Board of Registrars.
And again, I was having trouble discerning from the written comments whether they were asking for help or whether it was just comments. So I think that's just a conversation that needs to happen to see if there's more that they feel the board should be doing to help them. And the last one on C, Paul, I'm assuming that gets folded into all of the capital planning and operational budget cycle reviews.
Do you want- I can do that with you, if you want.
So Mark and Paul. And like, what are you thinking, maybe, and we can self-assign the liaison ones, right?
Yeah, I think the other ones, it's just should be the liaisons, should take a look at these, and where they're specific to their area, they should address them. Where they're not specific, they should still just bring it up, maybe.
And so maybe as these conversations happen, the responsible people could just let you or Paul know, put an update on the agenda, and even if it's just a verbal update.
Yep.
Because I think we should have the closure here.
Right, no, I agree.
Okay,
I think that's a good idea. Is that okay? George, good with that? Okay, great.
okay, thank you.
Thanks, that was good. Thank you for putting that all together. Okay, discussion regarding youth and young adult civic engagement. I think there's a couple of inputs on that.
Yeah, so the first one was one that I had crafted. If you want, I can kind of review that.
Yeah.
So, initially, I was thinking that we could have like a session and have it be for a specific topic and kind of wrap that into the resident engagement. But then I thought, well, if people aren't interested in whatever topic we pick, they're probably not going to get much interest. So, and then I was talking to a few people about possibly having something, here I'm proposing having something at the library, say next month, where it would be an open house type of situation where, because it seems that one of the major themes that we've seen across, all of this outreach that we've done is that people prefer a less formal interaction with us, that they like to talk to us one-on-one, to kind of, give them an idea of have them give us an idea of what they like about the town, what they don't like about the town, how they can be informed and engaged without it being some kind of formal requirement for them. So that's why I'm recommending that we have something like this, maybe next month, at the library. I was even talking to somebody at the library today to see if the library meeting room would be available, and she said, yeah, that's a really good idea. I think people would come in, and we could even have something right there at the door of the library, so even people just walking in the library could come over and chat with us for a few minutes about what they like or don't like.
It's like a municipal government fair.
Something like that, and have, some, maybe, representative members from some of the committees. Obviously, we couldn't be able to fit all the committees there, but there are some committees I think are very active in town. I mentioned specifically the recycling committee. I mean, they go to the farmers markets. They were at the Earth Fair thing over at the library a couple of weeks ago. It seems like they always have neat stuff to give away, and people like the stuff that they give away. So that was one that I was thinking of, but there might be others that could kind of talk to the residents, too, about the commitment that's required for a committee. I mean, I think that's why we don't have a lot of people that apply, because they feel like it's going to be every week or some kind of commitment. I mean, pretty much it's, we could assure them it's pretty much what you have to give. If you only have an hour a month, then that's what you give. If you have,
Well, that's what a lot of them are, really.
Right,
They're
exactly.
once-a-month meetings, but people
And-
assume
right.
that they're much more.
Right,
Yeah,
they
don't
do.
know. It's true.
So that's my proposal, that we, try to set something up like that. I mean, it wouldn't have to be even I don't feel like it would even have to be a posted meeting, because it would be us talking individually with people as they come in. Maybe, pass them off to whoever's next in line to talk to the person who comes in the door. I mean, and again, I brought this up just for discussion. I don't know if anybody has any other ideas. They hate the idea, they think it should be done a little bit differently, or what?
I love it. I think it's a great idea. I mean, I don't know about the environment and what exactly it looks like, but I think overall it's a wonderful idea. Yeah, I don't know if you're going for like a meeting environment or more of like a informal fair.
No, it'd
I
be.
don't know if the library
Very
is
informal.
the best place, but yeah, I think overall it's a great idea.
I mean, I think the library is a good place because you have the foot traffic as it is already.
Yeah.
Even.
So you wouldn't do it. You do it upstairs. Oh, yeah.
Correct.
Thoughts?
My only thought was when I was looking at like the notifications, Pat, I would add something to somehow notify the school system. And not just the high school, because the middle school kids too
Right.
do a lot with civics and stuff, so.
Well, yeah, and I mean.
I think it would be great for them to just come by too, if they want to, and
Right.
give us their ideas, or say, hey, I'd like
Yeah.
to somehow participate.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could send it to Jay Lang and see if he could put it on the listservs for all the
Yeah,
PTOs and.
put
all
it in
the-
his superintendent's letter or
There you go,
something.
yeah,
Then the parents did it.
right,
That would
good
get out to
idea,
That actually would touch a lot of parents as well.
good idea, yep,
Okay, do you want to take the lead on that, getting that set up?
sure,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, if
This
everybody's.
is great, Pat.
Yep,
Okay with
I think
it.
it's a good idea.
If you need help, I'll help you.
Okay, good.
It's great.
Okay, the next one, I think, Virginia, did you?
Well, this just came out, and I didn't know if we should,
Okay.
it's something they do annually, but Christina just put it in the packet, because I know we were also going to follow up on where we left things with the meetings with the classes.
Which
so-
I have.
Yeah.
Yep. Did you want to go through this at all, summarize it, or? I mean, is there anything here, or else I can just?
Paul, this is an annual program, right?
Yeah, I've shared it with
Yeah.
our department
Yeah.
heads of the town, and, I've asked them to be, responsive, because again, it's students from, grades 8 through 11, so, and like I said, I think we were very helpful last year, and I think it'll just continue to expand this year to get the kids engaged.
Okay. Well, as in follow-up to the meetings that a couple of us, or 4 of us had, Ken and George, and then Pat and I had with the civics groups and the AP government groups at the high school. We took those inputs, and I sat with George, with Steve Murray and Josh Blagg on April 13th, kind of went over the output that we had, essentially the input that we'd gotten from those 2 meetings. And Steve came back and he said, considering the time of the year that we are in right now in the school schedule, he thought that the best thing between now and the end of the year was to the Junior Job Shadow Program, which is on May 16th. And he thought that would be the best opportunity. And he just requested that if Paul, which I've already talked to Paul, and I know he's working on it, to provide a list of hosts at Town Hall in their areas of responsibility to Steve for assignments. So he'd try to coordinate that with Steve to get some of the students that may be interested to shadow some of the staff here at Town Hall. Yeah, he also looked at, the possibility of creating a youth page on the town website was something Steve talked about that we'd continue to discuss in the coming year. Have representatives from the school attend the select board meetings and town meetings. We did talk to him about the town meeting that we just had, the 2 meetings, and he talked about possibly having a couple of reps from either of the classes start to shadow the select board and potentially other meetings. But, and he's looking more towards next year, but it could be sooner. He definitely identified a career breakfast that's in March of next year, 2024, as a good opportunity for some engagement between the select board and the students. And what we agreed to do was to follow up in October. So after they get settled in September, he wants, George and I will go back in October and sit with Steve to discuss additional options for involvement and to nail down some additional items for the upcoming school year. So that was it.
Did you discuss the students, I think, had suggestions about using their, I forget what it was called, the
Pride
free
block.
block, the
Pride
Pride
block, yeah.
block?
Yeah,
So that would be the fall?
Yeah,
Is
we
that
went,
what-
yeah, we went over both those complete lists with him.
Cool.
But this is all that came out of that at this point. I think in October, we'll probably do a more detailed dive into some of those items. So, that's it.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Next item is the legislative earmarks.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. A police report that when the House concluded its budget, its proposed FY '24 state budget last Wednesday, the 4 earmarks for the town of Chelmsford were included. They're on the screen. Basically, the $70,000 for a new incident command vehicle for the police department, $70,000 for lightning protection at the South Rural Elementary School, $20,000 for improvements to transportation infrastructure at Vinyl Square, and $25,000 for a Council on Aging senior food security to meet the nutritional needs of seniors. Where it happens now is now the Senate will pick up the budget next week and take its actions. And what isn't necessary or beneficial is to request the same actions on the Senate side. Because again, those are the House earmarks. The Senate will now come in with its earmarks, and they basically tend to get consolidated into the final budget bill. And so, with that being the case, I thinking in terms of a couple things, issues that arose that we saw at town meeting and we've heard in this room regarding how the town can be, advance its efforts towards carbon neutrality. And so in my discussions with Christine Clancy, who stayed here this evening, I asked her to develop a formal proposal and a proposed budget and what we could submit to Senator Barrett, who we know heads the Energy Committee on the Senate side and is very much into the issues of clean energy, is a proposal for a strategic plan and roadmap. And Christine, if you want to just go over your memo that's in the packet there on the screen and sort of explain what the earmark request would be.
So as Manager Cohen said, this is something I think that would help us when we look at boiler replacements, and it has come up in previous town meetings. Boilers have a life expectancy of about 20 years, so I mean we're coming up upon boiler replacements. So right now we're still looking at gas. We recently looked at the Harrington School. It was asked, and so the project is $316,000. Quickly looking at the if we were to make it an electric boiler system, we would have to do significant infrastructure upgrades to the electrical infrastructure coming all the way from the street into the school, and including replacement of the switchgear. And a lot of our schools are, from starting 1958 all the way to 1974. So we estimated $2 million potentially just for those infrastructure upgrades. But really, this plan would be to review all the schools and this, I think I would say that was a preliminary estimate. This proposal would get into more of a detail to really understand what the electrical inventory of the electrical infrastructure and also understanding the capacity loads if we were to make it an electrical boiler system. Also looking at solar opportunities. I know that we right now have that on a lot of our municipal buildings and schools. The proposal is a request for $75,000 for this study. It would also develop a roadmap, so outlining how we would, the needs at each school, but how you could potentially, what's the priority and how you could plan that over the next, to really get us to 2050, so 25 years or 25 plus years. We did see a town of Acton completed a similar study, so that was, I think, one of our documents that we referenced, and so it would be a very similar scope of work. I think that summarizes the update.
Right.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts or discussion? I think it's a great use of.
really good idea.
It's an excellent idea. It plays right into the senator's
Yeah.
issues that he's concerned about, and it also plays into something we really need here.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah.
And next time we'll ask for the 2 million to do it, right?
So, I mean, the thing is that we do have boilers. I think we're pretty good with boilers, but as the next, 5, even 10 years, when we look at replacement of boilers, we'll have this inventory to then know what that cost is. And so we can start to plan for those costs, or it's just part of that analysis. Because we will have boiler replacements before 2050.
Any other questions? Take a motion?
We need a motion?
Yeah, that way I can
Okay.
say to Barrett that the board
Yes, we do.
formally requests it, yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we submit the presented Town of Chelmsford Schools electrification roadmap request for the Senate fiscal year '24 earmark request.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye, 5-0.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, bid awards.
Yeah, I have 3 different bid awards this evening. The first one has to do with the McCarthy Middle School kitchen equipment. Back on April 13th, the Public Works did a procurement for the kitchen equipment at the McCarthy Middle School and at the high school as an alternate. The lowest qualified bidder was Alternative Sales Corporation, had the responsive bid for this project. There were 3 bids in total. The request, again, is to the lowest qualified bidder, which is Alternative Sales. The bid amount is $321,645.08. And that would fall within our budget for the McCarthy School project.
Any further discussion? Do you want to do these all together or individually? Individually? Okay.
Why does it look like that wasn't the lowest?
Because there was a lower bid. That's why I used the word
Read the
responsible bidder.
comments,
It says it's not
There was another
responsive.
bidder who didn't bid all the equipment.
Oh,
In the
non-responsive.
coordination, so we had 3 bidders total, and the lowest bidder was not the lowest responsive bidder.
Got it. Thank you.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the town manager's bid award to Alternative Sales Corporation for the, what are we doing here? Kitchen equipment at McCarthy School in the amount of $321,645.08.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye, 5-0.
Thank you. The next one is Public Works seasonal bid for road reclaiming and paving. This, again, also went out on April 13th. There were 4 bidders. The lowest bidder and lowest responsible bidder was Newport Construction, and their bid price was $1.271 million.
Any discussion? Take a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the town manager's bid award for reclaiming paving work for the upcoming road construction season to Newport Construction in the amount of $1,271,000.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye, motion carries.
Thank you. And then the final bid award is for the Milan Avenue Sewer Pump Station. Here, there were 3 bidders. The lowest bidder and the lowest qualified bidder was N. Granisi and Sons. And the town has experience with them in the past few years with emergency sewer projects. So we're fully confident they'll be able to complete this work satisfactorily. So again, we request the confirmation of bid award to N. Granisi and Sons, $845,000 for the Milan Avenue Pump Station reconstruction.
Discussion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve the town manager's bid award for the Milan Avenue sewer pump reconstruction to N. Granise and Sons in the amount of $845,000.
I'll second.
All those in favor? 5-0.
Thank you.
Okay, town manager reports?
Yeah, real briefly, we have sewer flow reports for March and April. Now, the April one just became available today, but given that we're meeting tonight, and, I beg your indulgence for the last minute, but the news is basically positive on both of those. March and April, you tend to have snow melt, the rainy season as you're leaving the winter. The flows for April was slightly below March, which was our highest month for the year to date. Right now, we're tracking at 2.44 million gallons per day with 2 months remaining in the fiscal year. Remember, I know it's a rolling 12-month average, but that's where we are fiscal year to date. And so again, we are seeing the variations as we saw from related to climate in terms of dry months and wetter months, and so that's sort of where we're at. So I just wanted to report that to the board, and I think going forward, what I can do is, given that we're sort of seeing a pattern in this, I'll probably only formally report at a meeting like this when there's something of major significance, because, we are tracking it, and like I said, we're obviously tracking Tingsboro because that comes through our system, but right now, the news remains solid at this point. I think we're now past the pandemic enough and back into a more, normal business cycle, and so we seem to be doing okay.
No, that's fine.
Great, thank you. And then my other report is on the electricity procurement for the aggregation program. And this one, obviously, I emailed you at the time, but I wanted to bring it here formally for yours and the committee's awareness, because the news was rather alarming. The week of April 19th, the town bid with its consultant, electricity aggregation supply. At 3 bids were received, they all were rejected, and the reason was that the bids came in significantly higher than was forecast in our projection, and we think there was a market anomaly that took place. I mean, as you know, we're dealing with commodities, and you're dealing with energy commodities. Much like natural gas market, electricity, which is tied to natural gas, and obviously global situations, the bids came in way over the estimate. So, give an example, our current basic electricity supply price is just over 10 cents, 10.042 cents per kilowatt hour. The projection was that the bid price would come in a few cents over that. We knew prices were going up. We thought the basic, which is our tier service today, would be 13.8 cents per kilowatt hour. The bid that day came in at 15.463 cents per kilowatt hour. That's like a 50% increase in the current price. And again, the same thing came through with the greener, the 50% mix came in 1.2 cents higher than the estimated price, and then the 100% green was almost 2 cents above the estimated price. And so what that would have meant was, if somebody had stayed with our basic supply today and then opted into the lowest choice, a budget electricity supply, that increase would have been $400. And if they had gone to what would have been the new default, which was that 50% green thing, you'd have talked a $500 increase annually in the electricity supply. As I reported in the final sentence of the memo, market conditions have stabilized since 2 weeks ago. Our consultant is suggesting that we go out and procure a week from Wednesday on the 10th of May. And so that's what I will do. Again, I will inform you, because again, where it is a commodity, it has to be acted upon within 3 hours of the bids. They usually come in late morning, and Christine was on the call with me, Christopher Haley. I did ask the question about, well, if things are still trending this way, well, what would happen if we bid this with the 50% as the default, which is our expected main supply, and then either the board said switch the default to the low cost, or their sense was there could be a slight change order or markup in the low bid price if that were to take place. So I wanted to alert the board to that situation, because again, I know when we had this discussion several weeks ago, it was based on the estimated prices, but now, as you can see, we hit an anomaly, and hopefully things will return. But I wanted to at least bring you up to date with the most information that I have at this time.
And there isn't any sense, is there, on where this may?
No, I mean, what we do know is our contract expires in November. We have to have a new electricity supply vendor in place by the end of August. And so what we don't know, and this is the unknown about bidding a commodity, is do we bid now, on May 10th? Or do we wait till July 10th? Or do we wait till, August 10th? And there's risk, gambles of the unknown. And it really depends upon
So do you think August 10th is too late?
No, I'm
What
not
if
saying
we-
it's too late. I'm just saying there's two things that could happen by August 10th, or by July 10th, or even next Wednesday. There could be change in the political stability of the world, which could affect energy prices, or there could be an economic change in the world where, there could be a contraction of electricity demand, and then you could see prices drop. It's this, it's the same question that a resident has every year if you're buying heating oil. They say, do I do a rate lock for the winter, or do I ride the market? So I guess I'm asking or listening for your input in terms of what your counsel is in terms of, because you're going to, do you want me to return to the market now that it's stabilized a week from Wednesday, or do you want to postpone that till a later date, like again, as late as months from now, meaning mid-August?
Well, what's the effort to do this, and how often could you do it? How often could you get a bid?
I mean, it does involve effort because they have to reach out to suppliers, they have to issue a sample, illustrative bid document, sample contract. I don't think we're going to be bidding this every month. I mean, but I mean, there was no problem with us canceling bids. In fact, some of the procurements that were the day after ours were canceled because the market volatility. But I don't think it's proper to go out there and bid it on the 10th of May. We're going to cancel that, and then come back June. We're going to, I mean, at some point you've got to, draw your lot and draw a line. So I don't think it's, because it does involve, notice to vendors and suppliers. So, can we do it twice more? Sure, but we don't want to be doing it every month.
And the other, I just have one more question. Could you ask them for prices both ways, as if we were going to use the default at the lower one and at the greener one?
No, they're bidding real commodities, which is why they have to lock in 3 hours. So you've got,
okay.
so they're
But you-
bidding the market commodity that day. So, they don't want to be bidding hypothetical supplies. I mean, they're basically saying,
okay.
look, this is what we're doing, and you're,
No, but they're
You're in.
giving us the prices for
Right,
all
yeah,
three.
right.
Yeah,
But they're also.
Right, but we're telling them that this is going to be our default product.
Right.
And
So they're
we
seeing
know that the
90%.
bulk, we know that 90+% of
Yeah.
it's going to go to the default product.
Exactly.
And that's what they're basing
And
their
that's what they're
bid
bidding
on.
the bid on,
So
So if we stick with the green, and it comes in and it's a little bit high no matter what.
It might be
And we
because
want to go back to the lower, it's going to be higher than what
Right.
potentially we could have had, I guess is what so the real question is, do we want to reconsider the direction that we had discussed the last time, or?
So I wasn't on the board at the
Right.
time, but I did follow the discussion.
Yeah.
I mean, I would like to reconsider the discussion regardless, but that's just me because I wasn't here at the time, so
How do you,
not necessarily based on the bids, but in
can I
regard to
ask
the
a
bids, I'm not
question
sure.
just to help
Sure.
inform this conversation? Paul, when, like in your memo, and you've said it verbally, that market conditions have stabilized since last week, so the assumption is if you go to May 10th and nothing changes drastically between now and then, it'll be a more stable bidding environment. How do you or we know that market conditions have stabilized? Does that come through the consultant and their
Yeah.
knowledge of what's going on?
Exactly. The consultant basically,
So if the
it's like the stock market. There are commodities being bid
Did-
daily.
Did we,
And what they saw is they returned back to more normalized seasonal pricing.
so when you got the last round of bids, did we know that the market was
No.
unstable at that time,
no.
or?
It's like it's like getting up in the morning and seeing
So,
what the
so
stock
now that
market's
it's
going to do.
started, you get the feedback from the, and if they're saying that the market feels stable now, then I guess what I'm hearing is that would be a good time to go redo this. Right?
Provided
If
that
the-
nothing
if the- If
crazy
the consultant
happens.
saw that the market
Right.
was still
Their
very
recommendation-
dynamic or in
exactly.
flux,
They would
tell you and we would hold off in May.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I mean, I don't see it down, if unless something changes in the next week, and you use a judgment call that says this isn't a good time to go back, I personally don't see a downside to doing that.
Okay.
And I guess the question that I have to follow up from Mark's comment is, I wasn't hearing that they bid based on the price, whether we chose step 1, 2, or 3 as our baseline. I mean, I understand you tell them that, but does that affect how does that affect the rate at which they bid?
Because
Like
they-
their price?
Right, because what they're doing is they're bidding electricity supply and with SRECs, which are basically the greener products that come with it.
Right.
So we're basically telling them that we're bidding a product that's going to use 50% green as our default product. So that's pretty much the supply they're bidding, with the understanding is that a small percentage will go to the 100% and a percentage will go to the minimum required by the state. So that's what they're bidding. So it does matter
And
to them.
so wouldn't they want to be more competitive with that if that's what they're bidding? Like, that's of the three, that's the one that they're going to choose
Exactly,
to be more competitive on?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Okay.
again, my question was, do we want to move this next week as our consultant says, the prices are more normalized? And then two is, does the board wish to stick with the 50% green as the default product?
Exactly.
Did you guys go with the 50%? Did you actually do a formal vote?
We
Was that
did a-
formal
we did
vote?
a
No,
poll.
yeah, we just did a
Like a
poll, and
straw
it was
poll.
3-2 at that point to go with
I
the
mean,
green.
I still feel that, I appreciate that there was a lot of cerebral stuff in the committee's presentation to us, but I think they did a very thorough look at it, and, I mean, we appointed them to help move the ball forward with Chelmsford, and I still feel that, that middle point, I don't know, I'm still landing there, because as long as we over-communicate, I'm okay with it, because people have the option to still opt down or up.
And in fact, on this agenda would have been the
And
communication
that's-
plan, but
and that's
but
where
because there was no bid.
I mean, my
we
feeling
pushed
on
it
it
off.
hasn't changed at all, just because of the way the market's fluctuating. I think we should personally, I think we should take another run at it if the consultant says the market conditions have stabilized.
And I agree with that. I would like to keep, yeah.
Okay.
I really would not. I have
Would
to
your
say.
preference be?
My preference would be to go to the lower tier.
Okay.
I keep, it's like $400 a year, or whatever it is, but I keep imagining, a lot of my bills are on auto pay. So, for somebody like me, it would take me a few months to realize that my bill has gone up, and then you have to call and you have to go through automated answering and you have to deal with a customer service rep to figure out why your bill is more. And I picture, hundreds and hundreds and thousands of people having to do that over the next year, and the frustration that causes for people. And when they realize they've been opted into a more expensive electric plan after the last couple of years, I have a real hard time with that. I have a really hard time with that. And I think there's a lot of people who will struggle to get it corrected, to go through the proper channels to do that.
It's
You know,
going to change no
seniors
matter
and-
what. I mean, it's not going to change, it's not going to be 10 cents anymore, no matter what.
Well, no, I know, but it's for people who are constantly figuring out how to keep their bills lower. That's a serious source of
Into a
frustration.
different plan? What's the process?
They
Is it onerous, or is it?
No, they have to basically contact the company and say, switch me
Tell
to
them
the.
you want a different plan?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But if they don't know, if they don't understand,
That's why I said I'm okay with it if we over-communicate and have a plan for that communication,
we
which is
can try to
the agenda item that I had requested we do sometime in June or whenever we settle what we're doing.
So you would prefer the default being lower,
Yes.
George?
Middle.
Middle? Okay. For me,
I was on the top before, but that was a quick decision that night.
okay, so you want to stick with the green?
No,
The middle
I
one?
went to the middle. I would go down one where they can opt out quicker, right?
We
Sorry.
we
So-
had decided on the middle one last time.
You
Yeah.
were on the,
I thought you,
No, there were three
Oh, we
levels. There was
stayed-
the minimum,
it was-
the 100%, and then the middle, and we were at the middle last.
Yeah.
today we're at the lowest.
all right,
And so, the last time we talked about this, I think you and me and Pat were at the middle.
Right.
And Mark and Ken, and now Mark and Aaron are at the lowest, and there's still a higher tier above the middle.
okay.
And I'm not gonna put words in your mouth. You
Yeah, I
can- you
actually
can
haven't
reiterate,
spoken yet.
'cause I thought you had a good rationale too, I just.
So you want to stay where you were, George, on the green, or the lower?
Lower.
On the lower? Okay. I also want to be on the lower tier for a lot of the reasons that I discussed the last time, one of which is that this is still going to be in alignment with the state's goal for net zero by 2050 by going into that, and I think at this time, that would make a lot of sense to stick with that. I'm also really skeptical about any communication program getting anybody to make any changes. I wish it was different, but it isn't. And I'd rather see the 90% plus negotiated at the lower rate, so.
Okay, so my understanding is now.
I'm
there's
hearing 3 at
three-
the lower
okay. I think
default
it's
and 2
2.5
at the.
each.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so the default supply would be the state minimum.
I mean, I do think
Yep.
it would be worthwhile to communicate the benefits to everyone of them opting into the middle for future planning
Right,
purposes.
and so, yeah, the
But
communication
I
will just
have a-
flip.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'd rather have people opt into
Me too.
to it than have to opt out.
Me too, but, so everyone's good with Paul going on the 10th? Unless the broker says or the consultant says the volatility is still such that we should hold off till June. Okay.
Yeah, I
And
think
I'll
you
be
just
doing
apply
this.
your best judgment
Yeah,
at the time.
me too.
Okay, and then default supply with the state minimum.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, great. Okay, meeting minutes. So we have meeting minutes from April 6th. Any comments on April 6th? Take a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the reorganization meeting minutes from April 6, 2023.
A second?
All those in favor? Aye, 5-0. And meeting minutes from 4/10/23. Any corrections, comments? Pat?
I'll make a motion that we approve the regular meeting minutes for April 10, 2023.
A second?
All those in favor? 5-0. Okay, next, Select Board Member Liaison, reports and referrals. George? Virginia?
Sure. So just from the school committee, on tomorrow night's agenda, they're having a report from their outside consultant on their special education audit, and the report itself is in their packet if anyone would like to look at it. And just as clarification, this isn't about, it's not a compliance audit, the state does that. This is an audit to look at the special ed programs and make any suggestions that they have about efficiencies or the programming itself. And then from the Vinyl Square Strategic Action Plan Committee, just a heads up that they are working to schedule their improvement plan, Vinyl Square Improvement Plan presentation and a listening session with the public before that plan goes to Mass DOT. And hopefully it'll be in May sometime. The days have been fluctuating, so, but they're trying to target sometime in May, if you'd like to just stay tuned to that. That's all I have.
Pat?
Since we started with police information update, last Friday, Paul and I attended a police academy graduation, and we have 2 new patrol officers who I believe were sworn in today and starting on patrol, Alexander Frecker and Andrew Robinson. So welcome to the police force, and I'm sure we'll see them around town on patrol. And also the Chelmsford Friends of the Library book sale was held this past weekend. I'm sure everybody was aware, and everybody came and bought a lot of books. The total profit from the book sale was over $16,000. So
Oh, wow.
thank you to everybody
That's
who
great.
came and bought books. That's all I have.
I can thank my kids. They picked out like 30 bucks.
Erin, do you have anything? Of course, you weren't a liaison then, so.
No, I don't have any.
So you're probably a little quiet on that subject. So I have one, and this is from the Recycling Committee. The Ecology Club has been granted a $10,000 grant from the New England Biolabs to continue the composting program at the high school, which they're thrilled about, and of course, the Recycling Committee's thrilled, and it just underscores the good work that's been going on at the high school on this composting program. So, great job to them. And that's it.
Not quite.
That's it for open session.
That's it for this, yes. Now, going into executive session.
So I'll make a motion that we adjourn to executive session, not to return to open session for the purposes of strategy with respect to litigation regarding the North Chelmsford Water District PFAS claim, strategy with respect to litigation regarding 24, 26, 28, and 32nd Lane, strategy with respect to litigation regarding Ledge Road commercial truck traffic, and to review the executive session meeting minutes from April 10, 2023, segments 1, 2, and 3.
I'll second.
George?
Aye.
Virginia?
Aye.
Erin?
Aye.
And Pat?
Aye.
And I vote aye. We're adjourned. It is
7:40.
Now what is it?
7:40. Wow, 7:40. That's great.
Are we staying here or moving?